She collapsed right there in the conference room, but what he did next changed both their lives forever. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Sarah Mitchell gripped the edge of the polished mahogany table. Her vision blurred at the edges, turning the sleek corporate office into a watercolor painting that refused to stay still. She had not eaten in 2 days, not because she forgot, not because she was busy, but because her bank account showed $12.37, and her daughter's lunch money had taken priority over her own meals. "Miss Mitchell," the voice across the table said firmly, "are you listening?" Sarah blinked hard, forcing her eyes to focus on the man before her. Daniel Reeves sat with his daughter perched on his knee, her tiny fingers tangled in his tie. The little girl, maybe 4 years old, wore a princess dress over her regular clothes and clutched a stuffed giraffe that had seen better days. Her name tag read Lily in uneven letters, clearly written by her own hand. "Yes, I'm sorry," Sarah stammered, straightening in her chair. "You were asking about my experience with project management." Daniel nodded slowly. His dark eyes studied her with an intensity that made her nervous. He was younger than she expected for a senior director, maybe early 30s, with rolled-up sleeves and a shadow of stubble that suggested he had been at the office since dawn. The little girl on his lap yawned and nuzzled into his chest. "Daddy, I'm hungry," Lily whispered, though her voice carried in the quiet room. "I know, sweetheart." "Just a few more minutes," Daniel replied gently, brushing her dark curls from her face. Then he turned back to Sarah. "I apologize for the unusual interview setting. My sitter canceled last minute, and this position needs to be filled today." "It's no problem at all," Sarah said, though her hands trembled slightly as she pushed her resume across the table. She had worn her only professional outfit, a navy blazer that was slightly too big now after weeks of skipped meals, and black pants she had ironed 3 times to hide their age. The room tilted again. Sarah gripped the table harder. "Walk me through your last position," Daniel said, glancing at her resume. "You were an operations coordinator at Bennett Industries for 5 years. Then there's a gap of 8 months. What happened during that time?" Sarah's throat tightened. The truth was complicated, painful, wrapped in hospital bills and funeral costs, and a grief so heavy it had crushed everything in its path. Her husband Thomas had been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer exactly 9 months ago. She had quit her job to care for him full-time, to hold his hand through chemotherapy sessions, to read to him when he was too weak to hold a book himself. He died on a Tuesday morning in March, leaving her with a 6-year-old daughter, a mountain of medical debt, and a silence so loud it drowned out everything else. "I was caring for a sick family member," Sarah said quietly. "He passed away 8 months ago. I'm ready to return to work now." Daniel's expression softened almost imperceptibly. Lily shifted in his lap, peering at Sarah with curious brown eyes. "You have pretty hair," the little girl said suddenly. Sarah managed a small smile. "Thank you. So do you." "My mommy had pretty hair, too," Lily continued innocently. "But she's in heaven now with the angels." The room fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Daniel's jaw tightened, and he gently redirected his daughter's attention to her stuffed giraffe. Sarah saw it then, the shadow behind his eyes, the weight he carried that matched her own. "I'm sorry for your loss," Sarah whispered. Daniel met her gaze. "I'm sorry for yours." For a moment, 2 broken people sat across from each other in a sterile conference room, connected by the invisible thread of grief that only those who have experienced it can truly understand. Daniel cleared his throat. "The position is demanding. We're launching a new community outreach program that requires someone who can coordinate between multiple departments, manage tight deadlines, and handle unexpected challenges. The hours can be long, especially in the first few months." Sarah nodded. "I understand. I'm prepared for that. Do you have reliable childcare?" The question hit like a punch. Sarah hesitated just a fraction too long. "Yes," she said, though the truth was far more complicated. Her neighbor Mrs. Chen watched Emma after school for $20 a day. Money Sarah did not have, but somehow scraped together each week through a patchwork of small loans and delayed bills. Daniel studied her, his expression unreadable. Lily squirmed in his arms and pointed at Sarah's bag, which had tipped over slightly, revealing a wrinkled juice box and a partially eaten granola bar. "Is that your lunch?" Lily asked. Sarah's cheeks flushed. "Oh no, that's just a snack I keep on hand." But Daniel's eyes had already moved to the telltale signs she had tried so hard to hide: the too loose blazer, the slight tremor in her hands, the way she gripped the table like it was the only thing anchoring her to the earth. "When did you last eat, Miss Mitchell?" he asked quietly. "I had breakfast," Sarah lied, her voice barely audible. The room spun harder now. She tried to focus on Daniel's face, on the little girl's curious eyes, on the motivational poster behind them that proclaimed excellence through innovation. But the edges of her vision darkened like someone was slowly closing curtains. "Miss Mitchell?" Daniel's voice sounded far away. Sarah stood abruptly, trying to excuse herself, trying to hold onto the last shreds of dignity she had left. But her legs gave out, and the world tilted sideways. She heard a crash, felt the cold floor against her cheek, and then heard Daniel's urgent voice calling for help. The last thing she saw before everything went black was Lily's worried face hovering above her, the little girl's stuffed giraffe clutched tightly in her small hands. When Sarah woke, she was lying on a soft leather couch in an office she did not recognize. A bottle of orange juice sat on the coffee table beside her, along with a sandwich still in its wrapper and a chocolate chip cookie. The room smelled like coffee and old books. She sat up slowly, her head pounding. The door opened, and Daniel walked in carrying his daughter, who was now wearing a different dress, this one covered in dinosaurs. "Easy," Daniel said, setting Lily down. "Don't get up too fast." "I'm so sorry," Sarah began, mortification flooding through her. "I don't know what happened. I should go." "You fainted from low blood sugar," Daniel said matter-of-factly. He sat in the chair across from her while Lily climbed onto the couch beside Sarah, settling in like they were old friends. "The paramedics checked you out. You're dehydrated and malnourished." Tears burned behind Sarah's eyes. "I'm fine." "Really? Thank you for your help, but I should—" "When did you last have a proper meal?" Daniel interrupted. Sarah looked down at her hands. 2 days ago. "And before that?" "I don't remember." Daniel leaned forward, his expression serious but not unkind. "Ms. Mitchell, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Are you struggling financially?" The question hung in the air like a weight. Sarah wanted to lie, to protect what little pride she had left, but she was so tired. Tired of pretending, tired of holding everything together with fraying rope and sheer willpower. "Yes," she whispered. "Do you have a daughter?" Sarah's head snapped up. "How did you—" He gestured to her bag, where a child's drawing peeked out from the side pocket. "I saw the picture, and the name Emma written in crayon." Sarah nodded slowly. "She's 6. She doesn't know how bad things are. I've been telling her we're on an adventure, that we're playing a game to see how creative we can be with dinner." Lily tugged on Sarah's sleeve. "I play games with my daddy, too. We have breakfast for dinner sometimes." Daniel smiled softly at his daughter, then turned back to Sarah. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to eat that sandwich and drink that juice. Then you're going to let me drive you home, and tomorrow you're going to come back here at 9 a.m. sharp." Sarah's brow furrowed. "I don't understand." "You're hired, Ms. Mitchell. The job is yours if you want it." "But I fainted during the interview." "I'm clearly not." "You're clearly someone who sacrifices her own well-being to take care of the people she loves," Daniel interrupted. "You're someone who shows up even when you're running on empty. You're someone who keeps going even when everything tells you to stop." He paused. "Those are exactly the qualities I need in someone helping me build a program designed to support struggling families in our community." Sarah's hands trembled as she reached for the orange juice. "I don't know what to say." Say yes, Daniel said simply, and then eat. Lily clapped her hands. She should eat the cookie too. Cookies make everything better. Despite everything, Sarah laughed, a sound that felt foreign in her throat. She unwrapped the sandwich with shaking hands and took a bite. The simple act of eating felt like a luxury she had forgotten existed. Daniel stood and walked to his desk, returning with a plain white envelope. This is an advance on your first 2 weeks' salary. Non-negotiable. You need to eat, Ms. Mitchell, and so does your daughter. You can't take care of anyone if you don't take care of yourself first. Sarah stared at the envelope, tears streaming down her face. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. Daniel sat back down, and for a moment, the mask of the professional businessman slipped away, revealing the grieving widower beneath. Because someone did it for me once, he said quietly. After my wife died, I was drowning. I had a newborn, a demanding job, and no idea how to do any of it alone. My boss at the time, she could have fired me for missing deadlines or showing up exhausted. Instead, she gave me time, grace, and a chance to figure it out. He glanced at Lily, who was now examining the cookie with scientific precision. Now I'm in a position to do the same for someone else. Sarah wiped her eyes. I won't let you down. I know you won't, but there's one condition. She looked up, worried. You have to promise me you'll eat lunch every single day. No skipping meals, no sacrificing yourself. Agreed? A genuine smile broke across Sarah's face, the first real one in months. Agreed. Lily suddenly reached out and took Sarah's hand. Are you going to work with my daddy? Yes, I am. Good, the little girl said seriously. He needs help. He forgets to eat lunch too sometimes. Daniel laughed, a warm sound that filled the office. Traitor. That evening, Daniel insisted on driving Sarah home. She protested at first, embarrassed by the modest apartment building where she lived, by the threadbare carpet in the hallways and the flickering light in the elevator. But Daniel simply carried the bag of groceries he had insisted on buying on the way, while Lily held Sarah's hand and chattered about her favorite cartoons. When they reached her apartment, Emma answered the door. She was a smaller version of her mother, with the same gentle eyes and shy smile. Her clothes were clean but worn, and she clutched a well-loved stuffed elephant. "Mommy?" Emma exclaimed, then stopped short when she saw the visitors. "Hi, sweetheart," Sarah said, kneeling down. "This is Mr. Reeves and his daughter Lily. Mr. Reeves is going to be my new boss." You got the job?" Emma's face lit up. "I got the job." Emma threw her arms around her mother, and Sarah held her tight, breathing in the scent of her daughter's strawberry shampoo. Lily stepped forward shyly. "Do you want to see my giraffe?" Emma nodded eagerly, and within minutes the two girls were sitting on the living room floor, engaged in an elaborate game involving stuffed animals and a blanket fort. Daniel set the groceries on the small kitchen counter. Sarah noticed him taking in the details, the empty refrigerator visible through the open door, the stack of past-due bills partially hidden under a placemat, the patches on Emma's jeans done with careful, loving stitches. "Thank you," Sarah said softly, beginning to unpack the groceries. There was more than she expected: fresh fruit, vegetables, bread, peanut butter, pasta, milk, eggs, staples that would last them weeks if stretched carefully. "It's nothing," Daniel replied. "It's everything," she corrected. They stood in the tiny kitchen, two strangers connected by loss and circumstance, watching their daughters play together like they had known each other forever. "Emma seems like a great kid," Daniel said. "She is. She's the only reason I kept going after Thomas died. Some days she was the only reason I got out of bed." Daniel nodded. "I understand. Lily saved me too. On the worst days, when I couldn't see a reason to keep trying, I'd look at her and remember I didn't have a choice. She needed me." "Do you ever feel guilty?" Sarah asked quietly. "For the moments when you're happy? Like you're betraying them somehow?" Daniel was silent for a long moment. Every single day. And then I remembered that they would want us to be happy. They would want our children to have joy and laughter and normal childhoods. Sarah's eyes filled with tears again. I'm afraid Emma will forget him. She's already starting to ask fewer questions about her daddy. She won't forget, Daniel said with certainty, because you'll keep him alive in the stories you tell, in the ways you teach her to be kind and brave. That's what I'm trying to do for Lily. From the living room came the sound of giggles. Emma was showing Lily her collection of hand-drawn pictures, each one a colorful explosion of imagination. Lily was clapping and pointing, equally delighted. They're good together, Sarah observed. Yeah, Daniel agreed. They really are. He stayed for another hour, longer than necessary, helping Emma and Lily build an even more elaborate fort, reading them a story when they begged, and showing genuine interest in Emma's explanation of why purple was the best color in the world. When it was time to leave, Lily threw her arms around Emma. Can we be friends? Yes, Emma said immediately. At the door, Daniel turned to Sarah. 9 a.m. tomorrow. And Ms. Mitchell? Yes? Welcome to the team. After they left, Sarah stood in her small kitchen, surrounded by groceries she had not had to choose between, holding an envelope that meant her daughter would eat properly for the first time in months. She let herself cry, not from sadness this time, but from the overwhelming relief of not being alone anymore. Across town, Daniel buckled Lily into her car seat. As he drove through the quiet streets, his daughter's voice piped up from the back. Daddy? Yes, sweet pea? I like Emma's mommy. She has sad eyes like you do, but she smiled when we left. Daniel glanced in the rearview mirror. I like her too. Are you going to help her like Grandma helped us? I'm going to try. Lily was quiet for a moment. I think Mommy would like that. Daniel's throat tightened. Yeah, baby, I think she would. That night, Sarah made Emma a proper dinner for the first time in weeks. Pasta with marinara sauce, a side of steamed broccoli, and fresh strawberries for dessert. They sat at their small table, and Emma talked nonstop about her new friend Lily and the cool office where her mommy would be working. Is Mr. Reeves nice? Emma asked. Very nice, Sarah replied. Good. You deserve nice things, Mommy. Sarah reached across the table and squeezed her daughter's hand. So do you, baby. So do you. As Emma got ready for bed, she pulled out a fresh piece of paper and her crayons. I'm going to make a picture for Lily, she announced. That's a wonderful idea. Sarah watched her daughter draw with fierce concentration. Two little girls holding hands under a rainbow, their smiles taking up most of their faces. At the bottom, in careful letters, Emma wrote, Best friends. It's perfect, Sarah said, helping her daughter into bed. Do you think we'll see them again soon? Emma asked, her eyelids already drooping. I think so. Good, Emma murmured, clutching her stuffed elephant. I like having friends. Sarah kissed her forehead and turned out the light, then sat in the darkened room watching her daughter sleep. For the first time since Thomas died, the future did not feel quite so terrifying. The next morning, Sarah arrived at the office 15 minutes early. She wore the same navy blazer, but this time she had eaten breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast that Emma had insisted on making herself. The little girl had been so proud, standing on a step stool at the stove, carefully watching the eggs cook just like Sarah had taught her. Daniel was already there, of course, standing by the coffee maker in the small break room. Lily sat at a nearby table, coloring quietly while eating apple slices from a plastic container. Good morning, Daniel said, handing Sarah a fresh cup of coffee. Cream and sugar are on the counter. Thank you, Sarah replied, oddly touched that he had remembered she took both. Lily looked up from her coloring. Hi, Emma's mommy, Sarah smiled. Hi, Lily. What are you drawing? A dinosaur eating pizza. Daddy says I have to go to daycare today, but I wanted to stay here. Daniel sighed. We've had this discussion, Sweet Pea. Daddy has meetings all morning. Sarah hesitated, then said, "If it helps, Emma's school has a holiday today. Teacher training or something. My neighbor is watching her, but if Lily wants company—" "I couldn't ask you to do that," Daniel said quickly. "You're not asking. I'm offering. Mrs. Chen loves having extra kids around. She has about 15 grandchildren of her own." Daniel looked uncertain. "Are you sure?" "Positive. Besides, Emma would be thrilled." Lily's face lit up. "Really? Can I, Daddy? Please?" Daniel looked between his daughter's hopeful expression and Sarah's genuine smile. "Okay, but I'm paying Mrs. Chen for both girls." "That's not necessary." "It's happening," Daniel said firmly, but his eyes were kind. "Non-negotiable, remember?" Sarah laughed softly. "You use that phrase a lot. Only when I'm right." The morning passed in a blur of introductions and orientation. Daniel walked Sarah through the community outreach program, explaining his vision with a passion that made his whole face light up. "There are so many families in this city struggling just like—" He stopped himself, but Sarah understood what he had almost said. "Like you. Like us." "Just like we know too well," she finished for him. He nodded. "The program provides resources, food assistance, job training, child care support, even help with medical bills. But it needs someone who understands what it's really like, someone who's been there. That's where you come in." Sarah studied the thick binder of information he had given her. "This is incredible. How long have you been planning this?" 2 years. But I couldn't get it off the ground without the right person to run it." He met her eyes. "I think you're that person. You don't even know me yet." "I know enough. You show up. You keep going. You love fiercely. Everything else can be learned." Sarah felt something crack open in her chest, some small seed of hope she had thought was dead. "I won't let you down," she said again. "I know." By lunchtime, Daniel knocked on her office door. A small space, but it was hers, with a window overlooking the parking lot and a desk that did not wobble. "Lunch," he announced, holding up 2 paper bags. "And before you protest, I bought 2 of the same thing because I didn't know what you liked. So technically, you're doing me a favor by eating one." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "That's a terrible excuse." "It's the best I've got." They ate in her office, sitting on opposite sides of her new desk. Turkey sandwiches, pasta salad, and fresh fruit. Daniel told her about Lily's obsession with dinosaurs and her insistence that pterodactyls were just dragons that scientists don't believe in. Sarah laughed, really laughed, and told him about Emma's belief that if she left enough carrots out for the rabbits in the park, they would eventually let her pet them. "Has it worked?" Daniel asked. "Not even once, but she refuses to give up hope." "Sounds familiar." They looked at each other across the desk, and something unspoken passed between them, understanding, recognition, the beginning of something that looked like friendship. That evening, when Sarah picked up both girls from Mrs. Chen's apartment, Emma and Lily were inseparable. They had made friendship bracelets from yarn, played 17 rounds of Go Fish, and created an elaborate story about 2 princesses who saved a kingdom using only their wit and a magic elephant. "They were wonderful," Mrs. Chen said in her gentle, accented voice. "Lily is welcome any time." Daniel arrived 20 minutes later, still in his work clothes but with his tie loosened and exhaustion written across his face. When Lily saw him, she ran full speed into his arms. "Daddy!" "We had the best day. Emma taught me how to make a bracelet, and we had peanut butter sandwiches cut into triangles, and Mrs. Chen has a cat named Whiskers who let me pet him." Daniel caught Sarah's eye over his daughter's head, mouthing thank you. Sarah just smiled. As the weeks passed, a routine emerged. Daniel and Sarah worked side by side, building the outreach program from the ground up. They created resource guides, reached out to community partners, and developed systems to help families navigate bureaucratic nightmares that Sarah understood intimately. Some days, Lily came to the office. Other days, Both girls spent afternoons at Mrs. Chen's, crafting elaborate games and stories. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, their separate lives began to interweave. One Thursday afternoon, 3 weeks into Sarah's new position, Daniel found her crying in her office. She had her head down on her desk, shoulders shaking silently. He knocked softly on the open door. "Sarah?" She looked up quickly, wiping her eyes. "I'm sorry." "I'm fine. Just a moment." But Daniel stepped inside and closed the door. "What happened?" She shook her head, unable to speak. He waited patiently until finally the words came tumbling out. "It's Emma's birthday next week. She'll be 7. And she asked me yesterday if we could have a party like she used to, with friends and cake and decorations." Sarah's voice broke. "She hasn't asked for anything in so long. She's been so good, so understanding. And I wanted to say yes so badly, but I did the math, and even with my first paycheck, I can't afford it. Not the cake and decorations and little gifts for her friends. I can't give her what she wants." She looked up at Daniel with devastated eyes. What kind of mother can't even give her daughter a birthday party? Daniel pulled a chair around the desk and sat beside her. The kind who makes sure her daughter eats before she does. The kind who sews patches on jeans at midnight so her kid doesn't get teased at school. The kind who shows up to a job interview when she's literally starving because she refuses to give up. "But it's not enough," Sarah whispered. "It's everything," Daniel said, echoing her words from weeks before. He was quiet for a moment, then said carefully, "Would you let me help?" "No, you've already done so much." "What if it's not for you? What if it's for Emma and Lily? They're friends now, best friends. Lily talks about Emma constantly. She should be at Emma's party." Sarah started to protest, but Daniel held up a hand. "Here's what I'm thinking. We host it at my house. Nothing fancy, just the backyard. Lily and I will handle decorations. You can invite whoever Emma wants. We'll order pizza. I'll pick up a cake from the bakery. It'll be fun." "Daniel, I can't accept that." "Yes, you can. Because Emma deserves it, and so do you." He paused. "And honestly, Lily deserves it too. She hasn't had a friend like Emma before. Let them celebrate together." Sarah looked at him for a long moment. This man who kept showing up, kept offering grace when she had nothing to give back. "Why are you really doing this?" Daniel's expression grew serious. "Because when my wife died, I shut down. I stopped accepting help, stopped letting people in. I told myself I could handle everything alone." He glanced away. "It nearly destroyed me. My boss, my mother, even my neighbors, they kept showing up anyway. They wouldn't let me disappear into grief." He met her eyes again. "So now I show up. It's the only way I know how to honor what they gave me." Sarah's tears fell fresh, but this time they were different. Not tears of despair, but of gratitude so profound it hurt. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." The following Saturday, Daniel's backyard transformed into a wonderland. Colorful streamers hung from the trees, balloons bobbed in clusters, and a long table held pizza boxes, fruit trays, and a magnificent chocolate cake decorated with purple flowers, Emma's favorite color. Emma arrived with Sarah, wearing a dress that Mrs. Chen had altered from one of her granddaughter's hand-me-downs. When the little girl saw the decorations, she stopped in her tracks, her mouth falling open. "Is this for me?" she whispered. "All for you, birthday girl," Daniel said, kneeling down to her level. Emma threw her arms around him impulsively, then pulled back, embarrassed. "Sorry." "Never apologize for that," Daniel said gently. Lily came running from the house, wearing a matching purple dress and a homemade crown. "Emma, you're here. Come see what we made." 6 of Emma's classmates arrived over the next hour, along with their parents. Sarah stood off to the side, overwhelmed and grateful, watching her daughter laugh freely for the first time since her father died. Daniel appeared beside her, 2 cups of lemonade in hand. "She's having fun." "She's radiant," Sarah's voice caught. "I forgot what that looked like." "You both deserve this happiness." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the children play an enthusiastic and chaotic game of tag. One of the mothers approached Sarah, introducing herself and striking up a friendly conversation. Before long, Sarah found herself laughing along with the other parents, swapping stories about their kids, feeling like maybe, just maybe, she was not so alone anymore. When it was time for cake, everyone gathered around. Daniel lit the candles while Lily led an enthusiastic rendition of Happy Birthday. Emma's face glowed in the candlelight, her eyes shining with pure joy. "Make a wish, sweetheart," Sarah said softly. Emma closed her eyes tight, her small face serious with concentration. Then she blew out all 7 candles in one breath. Everyone cheered. Later, after the guests had left and the girls were playing quietly in the corner with Emma's new toys, modest gifts but chosen with care, Sarah helped Daniel clean up. "Today was perfect," she said, collecting paper plates. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. You gave my daughter something I couldn't. You made her feel special and celebrated and loved." Daniel stopped what he was doing and looked at her. "Sarah, you give her that every single day. Today was just one afternoon. You're her whole world." Sarah's eyes filled. "Thomas should have been here. He should have seen her blow out those candles." "I know." Daniel's voice was rough. "And my wife should have been here, watching Lily sing off-key. But they're not, and that's not our fault." "Then why does it feel like it is?" "Because grief is cruel and illogical." He set down the trash bag he was holding. "But you know what else? I think they would want this for us, this laughter, this friendship, these small moments of joy we're fighting so hard to find." Sarah nodded, wiping her eyes. "Thank you for everything." From the corner, Lily's voice rang out. "Daddy! Emma wants to show you her new book." They walked over together, and Emma proudly displayed a picture book about a brave elephant who learned to fly. As Daniel admired it, asking questions and making Emma giggle with his silly voices, Sarah watched something shift inside her. This man, who had every reason to be broken and bitter, chose kindness instead, chose to show up, chose to help a stranger who fainted in his office, not because he had to, but because he remembered what it felt like to need saving. That evening, as Sarah and Emma prepared to leave, Lily clung to Emma's hand. "Can Emma come back soon?" "How about next Saturday?" Daniel suggested, glancing at Sarah. "If that works for you both." Emma looked up at her mother with hopeful eyes. Sarah smiled. "That sounds perfect." In the car on the way home, Emma chattered excitedly about every detail of her party. Then she grew quiet, her small hand reaching for Sarah's. "Mommy?" "Yes, baby?" "Today was the best birthday ever, even better than when Daddy was here." Sarah's heart clenched. "Oh, sweetheart, I don't mean I don't miss him," Emma said quickly. "I miss him so much it hurts. But today I felt happy and sad at the same time, and that felt okay." She paused. "Is that weird?" Sarah pulled the car over for a moment and turned to face her daughter. "No, baby, that's not weird at all. That's called healing. And I think Daddy would be so happy that you had such a wonderful day." "I think so too," Emma smiled. "I think he sent Mr. Reeves to help us, like a guardian angel, but with a regular person." Sarah's throat tightened. Maybe he did. The next few months brought a rhythm to their lives that felt almost normal. Sarah threw herself into the outreach program with everything she had, and it began to flourish. Families reached out, desperate and grateful, finding resources that kept them housed, fed, hopeful. Every success felt personal to Sarah. Every family she helped was a reflection of her own struggles, her own fight to survive. Daniel watched her work with quiet admiration. She had a gift for connecting with people, for making them feel heard and valued. She never judged, never talked down, just listened and helped with practical, compassionate solutions. One evening, they worked late on grant applications, the office empty except for them. Sarah rubbed her tired eyes and leaned back in her chair. "I never asked you," she said. "Why did you start this program? What made you want to do this?" Daniel was quiet for a moment, his fingers still on his keyboard. "After Caroline died, I was drowning in hospital bills. My insurance covered most of it, but not everything. And I had a good job, savings, resources. But I kept thinking, what if I didn't? What if I was choosing between paying for her care and feeding my daughter?" He turned to face Sarah. "So many people face that choice, and no one should have to. I couldn't save Caroline, but maybe I could help save someone else's family from falling apart." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "You're doing that. Every day you're doing that." "We're doing that," he corrected. "This program works because of you." Their eyes met across the dim office, and something electric passed between them. Not attraction exactly, or not only that. Something deeper, recognition, partnership. The sense that they were fighting the same battle, carrying the same scars. Daniel cleared his throat and looked away first. "It's late. You should go home to Emma. You should go home to Lily." They both laughed, the tension breaking. As they walked out together, Daniel said casually, "The girls have been asking about a sleepover." "I heard. Emma mentions it approximately 47 times a day. Would that be okay with you? Maybe next weekend? Lily could stay at your place, or Emma could stay at mine, whichever you prefer." Sarah considered. "How about Emma stays with you? My apartment is tiny, and you have that incredible playroom." "Done. Friday night?" "Perfect." That Friday, Sarah dropped Emma off with an overnight bag, a stuffed elephant, and about 1,000 instructions that Daniel patiently listened to with good humor. "I wrote down her bedtime routine," Sarah said, handing him a note. "She likes one story, then a glass of water. Then you have to check under the bed for monsters. Then, Sarah," Daniel said gently, "she'll be fine. We'll be fine." Emma tugged on Sarah's hand. "Mommy, you're being nervous." "I know, baby. I'm sorry." "It's okay," Emma said seriously. "Mr. Reeves took good care of you when you fainted. He'll take good care of me, too," from the mouths of babes. Sarah laughed and kissed her daughter's forehead. "You're right. Have fun, sweetheart." Driving home alone felt strange. The apartment was too quiet when she entered. Sarah made herself dinner, an actual full meal, sitting down at the table, and tried to remember the last time she had an evening to herself. Her phone buzzed. A photo from Daniel. Both girls in matching dinosaur pajamas, faces covered in toothpaste, grinning at the camera. The caption read, "Bedtime routine is going great." Sarah laughed and sent back a heart emoji. An hour later, another photo. Both girls asleep in a pillow fort in the living room, arms around each other, peaceful. This time, Daniel's message read, "They made it 20 minutes before crashing. How'd I do?" Sarah typed back, a plus. "Thank you for this." His response came quickly. "Anytime. Enjoy your night off." But Sarah found she did not quite know what to do with herself. She cleaned the apartment, folded laundry, paid bills. Normal things that felt luxurious without a 6-year-old needing attention. Then she sat on the couch and pulled out a box she kept hidden in the back of the closet. Inside were photos of Thomas, their wedding album, cards he had written her, a pressed flower from their first date. She hadn't looked at these in months. It hurt too much. But tonight she opened the box and let herself remember, not with drowning grief, but with bittersweet nostalgia. She traced his face in their wedding photo, remembering his laugh, his kindness, the way he made her feel like the most important person in the world. "I miss you," she whispered to the photograph. "Every single day, I miss you. But Emma and we're going to be okay. We found people who care about us, and I think you'd like Daniel. He's kind like you were, broken like we are. But he's trying so hard to keep going just like me." She paused, tears sliding down her face. "I hope it's okay that I'm starting to feel happy again." "Not all the time, but sometimes. I hope that's okay with you." The apartment was silent, but Sarah felt a peace settle over her. Permission, maybe, or just the simple acceptance that life continued, and with it, the possibility of joy. The next morning, Sarah picked up Emma, who chattered nonstop about their night. They had watched movies, built the biggest fort ever, and Daniel had made them pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. "Can Lily come to our house next time?" Emma asked. "Absolutely." 2 weeks later, Lily arrived for her first sleepover at Sarah's apartment. The little girl's eyes went wide when she saw Emma's small but cozy room, decorated with Emma's own drawings taped to every available surface. "It's like an art museum," Lily breathed. Daniel stood in the doorway, overnight bag in hand, looking uncertain. "Are you sure about this?" "Positive," Sarah said. "We're going to have a great time." After Daniel left, the girls played for hours. They painted each other's nails in spectacularly messy fashion, made friendship necklaces from pasta, and created an elaborate puppet show using socks. At bedtime, Sarah read them both a story, tucked them in, and checked for monsters under Emma's bed with serious concentration. "All clear," she reported. "Miss Sarah?" Lily's small voice came from the sleeping bag on the floor. "Yes, sweetheart? I miss my mommy sometimes. Does that feeling ever go away?" Sarah's heart broke. She knelt down beside the little girl. "No, honey, it doesn't go away, but it gets softer. Like a bruise that's healing. It still hurts when you touch it, but not as sharp. Does Emma's daddy hurt like a bruise?" "Yes." Lily was quiet for a moment. "I'm glad Emma has you. And I'm glad I have my daddy. And I'm glad we all have each other now." From the bed, Emma's sleepy voice added, "Me too." Sarah kissed both their foreheads. "Me too, girls. Me too." Later that night, after both children were asleep, Sarah sat in her tiny kitchen with a cup of tea. Her phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. "How's it going?" She smiled and typed back, "They're perfect." Both sound asleep. "How are you?" "House is too quiet. Weird. I know the feeling." A pause, then, "Thank you for loving my daughter." Sarah's breath caught. She stared at the message for a long moment before replying, "Thank you for loving mine." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "Easiest thing in the world." Sarah set down her phone, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. This thing between them, whatever it was, felt inevitable. Like they had been walking toward each other from different directions their whole lives, and only now were their paths finally converging. It terrified her. It also felt like coming home. The following Monday at work, Daniel knocked on Sarah's office door. "Got a minute?" "Always." He stepped inside and closed the door. "I have to tell you something, and I need you to hear me out before you respond." Sarah's stomach dropped. "Okay." "I have feelings for you," Daniel said simply. "Real feelings. The kind that keep me up at night and make me smile at random moments during the day. The kind that make me want to protect you and support you and just be near you." Sarah opened her mouth, but he held up a hand. "I know the timing isn't ideal. I know we're both still healing. I know it's complicated with the girls and work and everything else, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this way." He took a breath. "You don't have to feel the same. You don't have to respond right now. I just needed you to know." The office was silent except for the hum of the air conditioning and Sarah's pounding heart. "I'm scared," she finally whispered. "Me too. I feel like being with someone else is betraying Thomas." "I feel the same about Caroline. But I also can't stop thinking about you," Sarah admitted, her voice breaking. "About how safe I feel when you're around. How you make me laugh. How you're so good with Emma. How you show up every single time." Daniel stepped closer. "So what do we do?" Sarah looked up at him, this man who had saved her in more ways than one. "We take it slow, really slow. We figure it out together. I can do slow. And we put the girls first. Always. Absolutely. Sarah stood, her hand reaching for his. And we promise to be honest about our fears, our grief, all of it. Daniel took her hand, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. Deal. They stood there in her small office, hands clasped, both terrified and hopeful. It was not a kiss, not a grand declaration, just two broken people deciding to try healing together. So, Daniel said with a small smile, want to grab dinner sometime? All four of us? Sarah laughed. That's your idea of slow? Baby steps. Okay, dinner, this Saturday. It's a date. Well, a family date, a slow family date. Sarah squeezed his hand. Perfect. That Saturday they went to a casual restaurant with outdoor seating. Emma and Lily sat together, coloring and giggling. Daniel and Sarah sat across from them, stealing glances at each other when they thought the girls weren't looking. But Lily noticed everything. Halfway through dinner, she leaned over to Emma and whispered loudly, I think our parents like each other. Emma giggled. I know. My mommy smiles different now. My daddy does too, like he's happy, but also nervous. Do you think they'll get married? Emma asked. Lily shrugged. Maybe. Would that be okay? Emma considered this seriously. Yeah, then you'd be my sister. And you'd be mine. The girls high-fived, sealing the deal, while across the table Daniel and Sarah remained blissfully unaware that their daughters had already planned out their entire future. Over the next few months, Daniel and Sarah navigated their relationship with careful intention. They went on proper dates, just the two of them, when Mrs. Chen could watch the girls. They held hands in the car. They talked late into the night about their hopes and fears and the people they had lost. One evening, sitting on Sarah's small balcony under the stars, Daniel said quietly, I need to tell you something about Caroline. Sarah waited, her hand in his. The day she died, I was at work. She called me and said she wasn't feeling well, asked if I could come home early. I told her I had one more meeting, that I'd be home in 2 hours. His voice cracked. She was gone before I got there. I didn't get to say goodbye. Sarah squeezed his hand tighter. I've carried that guilt every day since, the what-ifs, the if-onlys, the knowledge that I chose work over her in that final moment. Daniel, Sarah said gently, you didn't know. That doesn't make it easier. No, it doesn't. She paused. Thomas died at 3 a.m. I was right there, holding his hand. He opened his eyes and looked at me, tried to say something, but couldn't. Then he was gone. Tears streamed down her face. Sometimes I'm grateful I was there. Sometimes I wish I hadn't seen it. There's no right way to lose someone you love. They sat in silence, two people bound by loss, learning to carry their grief together instead of alone. I'm not trying to replace her, Daniel said. And I'm not trying to replace him, Sarah replied. But maybe we can build something new. Something that honors what we had while making room for what we're becoming. Daniel pulled her close. I like the sound of that. Time moved forward as it always does. The outreach program expanded, helping hundreds of families. Sarah's confidence grew, her smiles came easier. Emma flourished, her laughter frequent and genuine. Lily started calling Sarah Miss Sarah, less and just Sarah more. Small moments of intimacy crept in, Sarah braiding Lily's hair, Daniel helping Emma with homework, all four of them cooking dinner together in Daniel's kitchen while music played and flour ended up everywhere. 1 year after Sarah had fainted in that conference room, Daniel planned something special. He told her to dress nice and arranged for Mrs. Chen to watch both girls overnight. When he picked her up, Sarah was wearing a simple green dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. You look beautiful, Daniel said, and meant it. He drove them to a quiet restaurant outside the city, the kind with dim lighting and intimate tables. Over dinner, they talked about everything and nothing, their conversation flowing easy and natural. As dessert arrived, Daniel reached across the table and took her hand. "A year ago, you walked into my life when I least expected it. You were struggling, I was struggling, and we were both just trying to survive." He smiled. "But somehow, we found each other. And you've made my life better in every possible way." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Daniel, I'm not asking you to marry me, he said quickly. "Not yet. I know we need more time, but I am asking you to officially be my girlfriend, my partner, my person. I want to stop tiptoeing around this and just admit what we both already know." "Which is?" "That I love you. Completely. Terrifyingly. With everything I am." Sarah's tears fell freely now. "I love you too. So much it scares me." "Good scared or bad scared?" "Good scared. The kind that means it matters." Daniel stood, moved around the table and kissed her. Their first real kiss, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Sarah laughed through her tears. "The girls are going to lose their minds." "They already know. Lily asked me 2 weeks ago when I was going to make you her official stepmom." "What did you say?" "That I was working on it." They told the girls the next morning over pancakes. Before either adult could finish explaining, both Emma and Lily were cheering and hugging and talking over each other about how they had been waiting forever for this to happen. "We already planned your wedding," Emma announced. "You did?" Sarah asked, amused. "Purple flowers," Lily said seriously, "and a dinosaur cake." "Obviously," Daniel agreed, winking at Sarah. Life was not perfect after that. There were hard days when grief resurged unexpectedly. Days when Emma cried for her father or Lily asked questions about her mother that Daniel didn't know how to answer. Days when Sarah and Daniel argued or struggled with blending their families or felt overwhelmed by everything they were trying to build. But there were more good days than bad. Days of laughter and art projects and family dinners. Days when the four of them felt like a real family, bound not by blood or obligation, but by choice and love. 2 years after that first dinner, on a quiet Saturday afternoon in Daniel's backyard, the same backyard where they had celebrated Emma's 7th birthday, Daniel got down on one knee. Emma and Lily stood beside him, holding hands, wearing matching purple dresses. "Sarah Mitchell," Daniel said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "You saved my life. You saved my daughter's life. You showed me that healing isn't betrayal, that loving again doesn't mean forgetting. Will you marry me?" Sarah looked at this man who had seen her at her lowest and chose to love her anyway, at the little girl who had become like a daughter to her, at her own daughter, beaming with joy. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, yes, yes." The girls tackled her in a hug while Daniel slipped the ring on her finger. They all laughed and cried and held each other in the golden afternoon light. 6 months later, they got married in that same backyard. It was small, intimate, just close friends and family. Emma and Lily were flower girls, of course, walking down the makeshift aisle hand in hand. When it came time for the vows, Sarah spoke directly to Daniel, her voice clear and strong. "You found me when I was starving, in more ways than one. You fed me, sheltered me, protected me, and loved me back to life. You taught me that broken things can heal, that families can be built from love instead of just born from it. I promise to love you, to stand with you, to be your partner in all things, today and always." Daniel's vows were simpler. "I spent years believing I was too broken to love again. You proved me wrong. You and Emma gave Lily and me a second chance at family, at happiness, at life. I love you with everything I am, and I will spend every day proving it." They kissed as their daughters cheered, and somewhere, Sarah liked to imagine, Thomas and Caroline smiled too, not with sadness but with blessing, with permission for their loved ones to move forward, to find joy again, to live fully. And at the reception, Emma and Lily performed a dance they had choreographed themselves, complete with dramatic twirls and slightly off-key singing. Everyone applauded. Mrs. Chen cried happy tears. Daniel's mother hugged Sarah tightly and whispered, "Thank you for bringing my son back to life." As the sun set and fairy lights twinkled overhead, Daniel and Sarah slow danced while their daughters played tag with other children in the yard. "We did it," Sarah said softly. "We did, though I think the girls did most of the work." Sarah laughed. "Fair point." Daniel pulled her closer. "I'm really glad you fainted in my conference room." "That's a weird thing to say." "Yet true." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I'm glad too, even though it was mortifying. It was the best, worst day of my life." They swayed together, two people who had found each other in the wreckage and built something beautiful from the broken pieces. Their story was not perfect, it was not simple, but it was real, and it was theirs. Sometimes love arrives when you least expect it, in the most unlikely circumstances. Sometimes it wears a suit and holds a worried daughter. Sometimes it collapses from hunger and pride and desperate hope. Sometimes it saves you, and sometimes, if you are very lucky, you get to save it right back. Thank you for joining us on Sarah and Daniel's journey from desperation to hope, from loneliness to love. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that second chances are real, please subscribe to our channel. We share stories of ordinary people finding extraordinary grace in their darkest moments. Click the videos on your screen for more tales of resilience, redemption, and love that refuses to give up. Until next time, remember, your lowest moment might just be the beginning of your greatest chapter.